Hi guys, you're with Car Buyer and we're here at the small and socially distanced press launch for the all-new Honda Jazz, which is now in Singapore in 3 different versions. There is a base model just to keep costs low, and then there's a home model which is a little bit higher spec with more equipment. But the one I'm really interested in is this new hybrid HEV version. So why don't we go and have a closer look and check it out together. You can see an engine under here. That's a 1.5 litre petrol engine. These orange cables tell you there's high voltage running around the engine bay somewhere. And there are actually 2 electric motors that can power the front wheels of this car. In this particular car, there's a lithium-ion battery that lives in the boot as well. Now, okay, this is where it gets a bit tricky. From my understanding, this is pretty similar to the setup in the Nissan Note. However, in that car, it's only ever the electric motor that powers the front wheels. In something like a Toyota Prius, you have a sort of and/or situation where you can have the engine and the motor, or the engine or the motor driving the car. The Honda is the only car I can think of that has strictly an either-or situation. So in some scenarios, the electric motor powers the car. That tends to be at low speed in the city where, petrol power is particularly inefficient. Or at higher speeds or in certain conditions, the petrol motor actually couples to the front wheels and drives the car directly. So apparently a little switchover happens by itself, and it decides when it's best to do that. The net effect of that is it's actually quite an efficient car, 3.8 litres per 100 kilometers. The tank is 40 litres in size, so that means you should be able to get more than 1,000 kilometers per tank of petrol from this car. I want to show you something that actually tends to look out, and you notice on this version of the Jazz there is a camera here, and it's a very high quality and high resolution camera, and in fact this is apparently responsible for some of the active driving that this car can do. So there are features in this car like lane keep assist, which steers the car automatically to help you stay in lane and keeps you from crossing over the white lines if you don't signal. Things like radar cruise control, where it sort of locks onto the car in front of you and maintains the gap for you automatically. All that's enabled by this camera here. So, of course you can find these features in more expensive and bigger cars, but really this is one of the first times we're seeing it in this segment of car. So the Jazz in some ways is giving you quite a lot of car for the money. So here we are inside the front of the new Jazz, and look at this twin spoke steering wheel. I really like that. You can see this is the hybrid version, and there's a nice digital display up here that probably tells you what's going on. Buttons for the stuff we mentioned earlier, like the radar cruise control and the lane keeping assist. And of course the must-have nowadays is a touchscreen, a freestanding looking touch screen. What's interesting is that Honda has kept some physical buttons, which apparently makes it easier to use, and I agree with that. And one of the things they've talked about is that they've kept the buttons and switches that are most used closer to the driver. This version has digital air conditioning, the cheapest version of the car doesn't. So it's actually quite a nice, lovely interior with a great view out of the front of the car, actually even wider than before in the last Jazz. A lot of that's down to these split pillars here. But of course, this being a Jazz, I think the real magic is in the back. So let's go and have a look there. As you can see, it's actually surprisingly roomy in here. Well, maybe not surprisingly, they've always been masterful about packaging space in this particular car. Something I want to show you, of course, is this flip-up chair here. Now the reason they can do this and give you more space is because this is where the fuel tank would be for a normal car, but in the Jazz it's actually in front of me somewhere. So that's it for the new Honda Jazz from us for now. If you want to find out more about the car, we have all the Singapore spec and pricing on the website, of course. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up, share it with a friend, or subscribe.